Good day to the testifiers. Good day.
Excuse me one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, I'm not excellent. Thank you.
Good day to my colleagues. Good day to the people of the territory. Good day to the testifier nominee, as well as those in the audience. I hope everyone is having a blessed morning. I was here smiling a little bit because there's a lot of things that, especially with sports parks and recreation, I see where improvement can be had, and you touched on some of those things, as well as I see a broader scope of things that can be done. I love the sports tourism. I enjoyed the conversation about really trying to market our entity a little bit better. I'm looking forward to the upgrade in the website. That'll make people's lives a whole lot easier. I remember even when I had to do activities, the driving down there, the waiting, the back and forth, the paperwork, and I'm like, we're in the 21st century. You know, when do we get to a place where it's a lot easier? So I'm looking forward to things like that. I also, when my colleague was speaking about the enforcement arm, I support that 100%. Not only do I support it, I already submitted the legislation. BR 250311, hopefully it'll be out this year because I already sent in all the language. I'm waiting for legal counsel to return it to me because I recognize one of the things that I've been doing as a senator, I'm really trying to look through this government and look at different areas that I see where we could touch on, improve, and make the lives of the people better. And for an agency that has to deal with potentially sometimes hundreds and thousands of people going to the beach, they're going to parks. Sometimes you have events that are so crowded. And if we could allow and give our sports parks and recreation enforcement officers the authority to really act as peace officers, I think that would help us a lot so they could act immediately in some situations. I mean, you have tourists going to a lot of these different locations or beaches, etc. So if they have that type of authority, I think that could assist us in a way and really let the police department focus on activities of the general community outside of things that are happening in the areas of sports parks and rec. So I was very happy that you brought that up. So look out for it. So it's coming. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, we have this back and forth with Polly Joseph Stadium, and I am, you know, when you so desperately want something for the people of St. Croix, you really, really want them to get this stadium done. Let's say it actually does get done. Is your agency prepared to hit the ground running from the time this gentleman says Christmas Day, if he gets his money, he's willing to hand over the keys? Are you guys ready to hit the ground running with that?
Yes, from the standpoint of being able to put on events locally. No, we would actually need a few more employees stationed to that facility permanently because it's a big big facility, a big property. So it's going to need its own staffing. You know, which is additional. So
you guys would be starting to prepare for that, and you're looking into in advance.
Correct.
Because the last thing I want to hear is he says he turned over the keys, and then we're still waiting. So I'm happy to hear about that part.
And the plan is to also use that area between the Terrace Martin, Littlefield, and Polly Joseph as finding space to staff, to have staff in the west to take care of the pool, WIM, everything we have in the west.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. I also wanted you touched a little bit on the lifeguard situation, and I remember we had there was a conversation before that we had discussed where the lifeguards would come get trained, and then they got certification, and then some would leave. Right. How do you guys handle that? Are they now signing off on documentation to say if we invest all this time and money and effort into you, you can't just get up and go? is there anything that you guys have come up with since that last conversation we had in regards to retain them?
Well, all the lifeguards that we have previously has never been trained by the department.
Okay.
They came already trained or already qualified. So, but the problem was we wasn't keeping them. They was coming for a little while, and then a lot of them was transplants or came away from the state.
Okay.
But locally, it's very hard to find.
So,
locals.
do we have a recruitment plan?
So that's the plan now.
Okay.
We're changing our whole plan as far as how we get in lifeguards. We're trying to attract more locals and give them the training because they're ours, you know.
And that even came more to light when I was watching the national news. As you know, Malcolm Jamal Warner died a couple days ago. Yeah. Everybody knew him as Theo Huxtable. Right. He died. He got caught up in the current. And, you know, by the time they said responders got to him, it was basically too late. And that thought, I kept thinking about here in the Virgin Islands, and I remember that conversation, and I'm thinking, hey, we really need to make sure we have lifeguards because we never know what's going to happen. I had a cousin that died, a first cousin, my aunt's son. He got caught up in a whirlpool trying to save his girlfriend, and the whirlpool closed in on both of them. He was from here. So I understand that. So I really hope that you focus on that, and I would look forward. And you definitely have my support. I think you've been doing an excellent job so far within the agency, and thank you so much for responding poignantly. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heiliger. We have a point of information from
Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the nominee testifier. Good afternoon to my colleagues and staff. Mr. Raphael, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much.
I was here sitting down smiling from ear to ear when I was listening to you talking about how you specifically executed what you needed to do. Sought out this board because you need to be on this board. And I love when people have a passion for what they want to do. And I was excited. I perked up when you were talking about that. But I wanna dive into my questions. My first question has to do with I know when we were talking earlier, we talked about how you spoke about how, you know, you heard about hydroponics from back in the 80s and we're not really progressing. We touched a little bit on, you know, people don't really know about the RT Park at times. Living here in the Virgin Islands, I don't even think sometimes our local Virgin Islanders know much about the RT Park. What do you think as a board member we need to do to help change that narrative? Because there's a lot of talented Virgin Islanders that could benefit from the RT Park. Imagine we're talking a lot about people coming in, but there are people right here that have talent, that have ideas, ingenuity, could do so much. And sometimes we could thrive from within. And when our own people don't even know some of these things exist, what do you think needs to be done to help change that narrative?
Thank you, Ms. Senator.
1 minute.
You're absolutely correct. And by the way, the people I spoke to on the plane were actually living here. They were coming back home. I didn't know. So you're absolutely correct. And that is a problem of awareness. We have to build an awareness campaign. We have to do it directly by getting out and marketing ourselves, but we also have to do it indirectly, something I called engineered media. We have to get our story woven into the stories of people's lives so they understand why we're here and how we can help them. That's something, that's a science and an art. And to be clear, I speak not from theory, but this is what I've done over and over. Companies like, if you ever heard of Genesis, the car company, when that company started, there was one employee, it was me. I started that company, and nobody knew about it. We had to get the word out there. So in terms of sponsoring sporting events. I just had the privilege of sitting into the hearing for what I hope will be the next director of sports, parks, and recreation. And I think that some sponsorships of some sporting events, for example, would be a great way to get the word out. There are other things, the airport. Everybody who comes into the airports, well, they need to know while they're waiting on their baggage. I think they need to know about the RT Park and why we're here and how we can help them and why this is a great place for their business. And also when you come back home, that this is a great place to help you incubate your own business ideas and put them on the map.
Exactly. I love that. Could I just ask my final question, ma'am?
You may proceed.
And this was around one of my questions, incubators. And I just have this idea of the RT Park creating almost like a mini incubator location where you could almost mentor entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, where even if it's blocked out like a 12-month, they come in, you educate them on setting up, learning about, and then they gradually move out so the next set could come in. And I had this vision in my head so long because I could see how it could really help our young people, help our individuals that some people just don't know what to do. Some people, you talked about the previous individual who was here, Mr. Roberts, and how he spoke about wanting to advance the website at Sports Parks and Rec. RT Park technology, what if you had and you helped nurture businesses right here? We wouldn't have to be spending a lot of times the millions of dollars we spend outside for people to build websites when we have people right here. You know, artificial intelligence, all of these things are here now, and we could really build from within and not only just see the Virgin Islands as just, hey, y'all have a RT Park, but stop and think. The resources are the people as well. So tell me what your thoughts about how really tapping into helping young people, helping entrepreneurs to really utilize this park. And that's my final question.
Well, and I think that's a great question. I agree with everything you just said, by the way. And I think that getting out there and getting young people, but not only young people. I'm particularly interested in the young people because of the leverage we have with time in their lives. But there are mature adults who are starting businesses at the Lantern Network, which is a nonprofit that I co-founded and continue to chair and will for the rest of my life. We put together entrepreneurship sessions. We had one in Detroit. 30 young entrepreneurs, all of them have taken off. We're batting 1,000. So you have to get people out there to show them the way, pair them up with mentors, help open doors, and help facilitate their entree into wherever their spirit leads them. Our people are creative, we're innovative, we work hard, and we believe in ourselves. And those are really the accoutrements required for success. We have it.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate the response, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the additional time.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the people of the territory, the testifiers. I recognize that this piece of legislation comes in two parts, and I do agree it would be a little bit difficult to make any final decision on just half of it, but I also understand what the Revised Organic Act says, that the establishment has to be separate from everything else. I think we might have or should have potentially put the two of them together in a committee at the same time to be discussed simultaneously, but seeing that this is not what's happening, I am in support of the establishment. So have no question about it. And I know I heard from the sponsor that the second part, 78, because it does have in some financial numbers as to how it's going to pay for this, that's in the Committee on Finance. At some point, it's going to come to the Committee on Rules. So at some point, both of them will be before us. So I am sure we'll make a decision for me once I have opportunity to see them simultaneously and have a conversation. But as of right now, the questions I want to ask, why, from the representatives of personnel, you spoke that you are of the opinion that you guys should have some role in this, and you have all this stuff on your website in regards to ethics. Could you tell me on average how many ethics complaints you get annually? Do you keep a track of that? Have you gotten, since you've established this information on the website, could you give me some type of numbers?
Good afternoon, Cindy Richardson, Director of Personnel. So since this has gone up, I believe we have received recently actually just 3 so far.
You've gotten 3 so far.
Yes.
And of those 3, how do you, so when exactly did this go up?
This went up just after the signing of, I would say a month or 2 after the signing of the executive order.
Okay, so could you give me a date? When was this?
The executive order went into effect January 27th. And so 2 months after that.
Okay, so you're saying roughly from March until July, you've gotten 3 complaints.
Correct.
How do you deal with the investigatory part of it? Could you explain to me if an ethics complaint comes in, tell me how you tackle that part investigation-wise?
So we would, they would be assigned to my legal counsel, and there is our process that we follow, usually similar to that of our EEO investigations that we do. And we would go through and make contact and do our interviews and investigation as necessary, prepare a final report, and take it from there.
Okay, of this, how long on average of these 3 specific, the reason why I'm so taxing on trying to understand your process is because you're suggesting you guys should play some major role in this. So I'm trying to understand a justification for it. Of the 3 that you've gotten so far, could you tell me on average how long it took you to investigate and come to a conclusion, or are you still working on them currently?
There are some that we're still working on, but on average, we usually try to get it done within a 60 to 90-day window.
Okay, so from March until July, March to April, April to May, May to June, June to July, we're past the 90 days. So I'm asking you, so far, is any of the 3 completed?
So just for clarity, those 3 cases recently came in, so we're within the time frame.
Okay, so you're still actively working on them?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I like that. The reason why I'm trying to make sure, understand, because I want to have some kind of clear delineation between those that are dealing in management with personnel, filings, etc. Because me, for example, I have spent the majority of my time as a employee of the government working under the first branch of government. And there is a second branch, which we all understand, and then there's a third branch. So why do you believe that this should be under the purview of personnel, specifically under the second branch, versus creating something independently that doesn't really have a specific tie per se to any particular branch?
Good afternoon, Cindy Richardson, Director of Personnel. So basically, Title III, Division of Personnel does have the authority to do so. And just to add, because Senator, I do know that you do appreciate and you do your own research, but even when we looked at this as far as the formation of the commission, we're in support of it and we want to support that. The states such as Florida, Texas, New York, and California all have some sort of HR offices that are responsible for a certain level, and they work in collaboration with an ethics commission.
1 minute.
So the HR arm does play a role in it, and we, under Title III, we do have the statutory authority to do so.
Okay, and I'm going to be honest with you. that's why I'm just trying to gather information so I could see for the final outcome, because things could always be amended. I'm very concerned, just from my perspective, where sometimes things are put in certain places. That's why I kept diving down to see how fast you guys are moving and trying to push through things. I could better see if this potentially could be a location for some kind of assistance as well. But I get very concerned with how our government functions as a whole. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in our community where you would think like even the local AG would step into, it just never happens. A lot of times it's the federal government that has to step in, and then we're here with our mouths open. So I don't want to create a situation where we just put things into a de facto location and you don't really see any results, because unfortunately, unlike all those other states you called, sometimes certain things, when you're in a much smaller community, everything doesn't always go the way it's supposed to. It's who you know, who's related to who, you know, let me give that one a chance, let's not do this. So it almost makes me feel sometimes there are some things that really might need to have a totally independent setup outside of what maybe other jurisdictions might do because of the makeup of our community. So I'm trying to honestly look at it from multiple perspectives. And the only other thing that I wanted to toss in, I do understand the notion that what authority is given to personnel, what authority has already been given to the AG's office. But I think people a lot of times forget that those authorities are actually given by the legislature. And the same way we give it, we could take it away. So if we choose to see a potential that maybe another alternative or a different route could be in the best interest of the people of this territory and how we do things, we're gonna look at that. So I do appreciate your poignant answers, and I'm going to look at it quickly and potentially see where whatever other agencies could play a role if necessary, or maybe it's in the best interest to revamp the entire thing and go a little bit more independent. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the additional time.
Thank you so much, Senator.
When it comes to this piece of legislation, I sometimes feel that I am between a rock and a hard place, because I understand as legislators we have to come up with a way to increase revenues to specifically pay for certain things. But also as a representative of the people, I get very concerned at times. And I start doing a lot of math in my head, because having imports into this territory with containers are a way of life. This is not something that we have an option with here in the territory, living on an island in the middle of the ocean. So when I'm put into situations like this, is it a situation where we have to make sure find money for the government to run, or potentially an option where it turns into additional monies being passed on to the consumer? Because in speaking with many of these shippers, they're basically saying, hey, you give us these additional fees to pay, we're just gonna pass it on to the consumer. And the consumer are those businesses and entities that ship in items into the territory. And when you add on additional costs to them, they're now going to pass it on to the consumer, which is more than likely individuals, me and you, that go and shop at these entities. So I am in a very funny place, because I understand the need to, Madam Chair, could I wrap up?
Quickly.
Thank you. I understand the need to generate revenues, but because I'm a little bit concerned where it comes to us constantly trying to put taxes or additional fines on things that is the very essence of how we survive in the territory, I'm concerned with that. So I'm gonna make my decision when it's time to vote, and we can go from there. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
And thank you so kindly. Recognize.
I just want to put on the record that, 100 pennies equal $1. So, it's nice where you're minimizing what the value of a penny is, but all these pennies are ultimately going to add up, and the people who are going to pay is still ultimately the consumer. So if that's the case about all these containers that come in versus them going out. So if they come in and when they go out, why don't we just put it on the ones that go out to guarantee that the $100 is only billed to the shippers and not the consumers per se? I mean, if that was the thought you were just sharing, as to who these big businesses
Your
who
point
send out
is
stuff
you're making a point of information, Senator Francis Heiliger, and it's noted.
Yeah, I'm putting that on the record.
Okay, thank you.